Well, the US Secretary of Defence gave military chiefs a reality check this week, and I think he upset all the right people. Have a look.
This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department. They had to put out dizzying DEI and LGBTQI+ statements. They were told females and males are the same thing, or that males who think they're females is totally normal. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test.
So what can the Australian Defence Force learn from all of this? Joining us now is retired Australian Army Major General Mick Ryan. Mick, thanks for coming on the program. What did you make of Pete Hegseth's address to the military brass in the United States?
Well, I think this is an issue for domestic politics in America, but it's not something that we'd want to be listening to seriously. I think most Australian Army soldiers could give more eloquent and more relevant talks to their people than what the American Secretary of Defence gave to that room with about 25,000 years of military experience. He gave the kind of talk he might give to a section of troops. What we need from the US Secretary of Defence is talks about strategy, about alliances and the future of competition and confrontation against authoritarian regimes, not what happened this week.
Should we be worried, though, about wokeness creeping up in the ADF? I mean, I did a quick look online, Mick, and right now we've got ADF recruits here being asked for their pronouns. There's gender-neutral terminology being adopted for ration packs and for unmanned drones. Labor's reintroduced diversity morning teas for the workforce, and the list goes on. I don't suppose that China is doing all of this, Mick. Our enemies would be laughing at the very suggestion.
Well, I think many of the things that the Australian Defence Force is doing is based on the legislation and the law of the land. I mean, if Defence Forces stop doing what politicians tell them to do, that's a very bad thing in a democracy. So if we want to stop some of the behaviour around language and those kind of things, look at the right culprits. It's politicians, not military people. We just do what we're told.
On that, Mick, I have to then ask you, do you think that those directives from politicians are helpful to have a fit and fighting force to defend our country, or do you think they're unhelpful?
Well, I think the vast majority of directives we get, even some of the ones you've said, are all about building respect amongst our people. I mean, some of the nonsense that's being sprouted about women not being up to the demands of being soldiers, it's absolute garbage. It's been disproven over multiple decades. So a lot of this woke myth that we've seen from certain quarters just doesn't exist. What we've tried to do in the Australian Defence Force is build a highly lethal, highly deployable organisation that uses people at their best strengths. And sometimes, if you want 1,000 drone operators, they're not all going to be NRL players. They might be older people in tennis shoes. So, I think a lot of the rubbish we see about wokeness just isn't appropriate. But there are challenges and there are too many senior officers, and they're the kind of things we need to be tackling.
All right, I want to ask you about the pact with PNG. We're about to enter a formal defence alliance with Papua New Guinea. It was meant to be signed last month, but was momentarily delayed due to China's influence, which I guess brings me to my question. How far does this agreement with Papua New Guinea go toward countering China's influence in the Pacific?
I think it's an extraordinarily alliance agreement with our very close friends in Papua New Guinea. Not just geographically, but politically and socially. Australia and Papua New Guinea are very close. The geography was very important in the First and Second World War. It remains very important. And Papua New Guinea don't want to be under the influence of the authoritarian old dictators in Beijing. They want to run their own game, and they think partnering with Australia will help them do that. So it's an extraordinarily important alliance. Just as Australia has alliances with New Zealand and other countries. And it's the kind of thing we should be doubling down on with other partners in the region.
Yeah, very true. Mick Ryan, we always appreciate you coming on the program. Thanks so much for your insights tonight.